if I told you that most conflicts are not about what's being said, but how it's being said? In tense moments, the difference between chaos and resolution isn't luck, it's psychology. Let's be honest, conflict is part of life. Whether it's a coworker, partner, or total stranger, we all face moments where emotions rise and misunderstandings spark. But most people don't realize that we already have psychological tools to stop conflict before it spirals. And they're easier to learn than you might think. It's not about avoiding disagreements, it's about responding wisely. As a psychology major passionate about human behavior, I've spent months studying the strategies that allow people to take back control in high tension moments, at work, in relationships, and even on the street. I'm not here to promise a drama free life, but I will show you how to respond, not react, and protect your peace. Because you don't have to be aggressive to be powerful. You just have to be aware, intentional, and prepared. That's what psychological conflict resolution is all about. That's why understanding and applying psychological techniques like emotional regulation, assertive communication, and de escalation strategies doesn't just prevent conflict, but it turns potential chaos into clarity. So, today, I'll walk you through three techniques backed by psychology and research. 1. How emotional intelligence can help us stay grounded in conflict. 2. Why assertive communication and boundary setting are key to avoid misunderstandings. And 3. How de escalation techniques can stop a tense situation from exploding. Let's begin with emotional intelligence, the foundation of conflict prevention. Emotional intelligence is our ability to recognize, understand, and manage our emotions and the emotions of others. It's not about expressing feelings, but about becoming aware of them so we don't let them control us. Mindfulness plays a big role here, as it helps us stay mentally and emotionally grounded, especially in high stress situations. In fact, studies show that emotional intelligence and mindfulness improve our ability to handle conflict. According to Mandal and Lib on 2022, acting with awareness, describing, and non-reactivity were positively correlated with the quality of close relationships. That basically means the more mindful we are, the better we handle relationship tension. So how does this play out in real life? Let's say a coworker falsely accuses you of taking credit for their work. The instinct might be to react negatively, but emotional intelligence gives you another option. Instead, you might say, I understand why you feel that way. Let's go over what happened so we can clear it up. That tone, plus an open posture and steady voice, keeps the conversation grounded rather than combative. Now, let's move to assertive communication, an essential tool in avoiding misunderstandings before they escalate. Assertive communication means expressing your needs clearly and respectfully without blaming or avoiding. This is at the core of nonviolent communication, or NVC, a method created by psychologist Marshall Rosenberg. NVC is not just about being nice, it's a structured process based on four components: observation, feeling, need, and requests, according to Nonviolent Communication in 2025. And it works because it avoids judgment and focuses on empathy. According to the source, NVC's goal is to increase empathy and understanding to improve the overall quality of life. It basically teaches you to say what you do want, not what you don't. For example, if a friend frequently makes comments that make you feel uncomfortable, instead of avoiding them or getting angry, You can use assertive communication. Instead of saying, "Stop making jokes like that," you might say, "I would rather not talk about this. Let's change the subject." This reinforces a boundary while staying on your ground. As Rosenberg emphasized, true assertiveness invites mutual respect, not dominance. You don't need to raise your voice to stand your ground. Just one assertive sentence can protect your peace without starting a fight. Finally, let's look at de-escalation, or how to diffuse conflict once it's already heating up. What happens when someone raises their voice, like a stranger or a customer yelling at you in public? The natural response is to match their volume, but that only makes things worse. In fact, research supports this. A 2014 study by Kramer et al. Demonstrated that emotions spread between people even without words, and that negative emotions can spark more negative responses in others. The study found that when positive expressions were reduced, people produced fewer positive posts and more negative posts. When negative expressions were reduced, the opposite pattern occurred. That's the science behind emotional contagion, or the idea that emotions are socially transmitted. So, by staying calm, we can actually shift the tone of the interaction. Let's say a customer or a stranger raises their voice at you in public. Instead of mirroring their anger, you lower your voice and say, "I see you're upset. How can I help?" This response disarms aggression. In fact, experts say calm behavior can literally talk to another person's nervous system. According to therapist Cheryl Groskopf, the calmer you are, the calmer they'll become. It's almost like your nervous system talks to theirs. That's why softening your tone, keeping open posture, and not crowding their space can de-escalate a potentially hostile interaction. And it doesn't just work on strangers. The same mindfulness techniques used in relationships help reduce conflict in high-stress situations too. Mandal and Lib on 2022 report that mindfulness was a predictor of satisfaction and cohesion, and negatively correlated with the escalation of conflict and withdrawal. In other words, staying present stops the spiral. Conflict is part of life, but how we respond to it is entirely up to us. When we practice emotional intelligence, we don't just control our reactions, we understand them and respond with awareness. When we use assertive communication, we make space for boundaries without building walls, creating room for mutual respect. And when we de-escalate tension instead of feeling it, we shift the entire tone of an interaction for ourselves and others. These three tools work together to stop conflict from spiraling and create opportunities for resolution. These aren't just techniques, they're habits that protect your peace and change the way people see you. By staying mindful, clear, and composed, you don't just prevent conflict, you transform it. So, if simple techniques like mindfulness, assertiveness, or emotional awareness can prevent conflict, why don't we use them more often?